Hi guys, my name is Dot Silverman and I'll be showing you how to convert your creature that you design in Spore into a 3D model that will actually be able to be 3D printed. And so after you design your creature in Spore, the program will output a file that has a .dae extension. Okay, so you can see that right here. And the first step we have to do is to convert that file format into an STL file format. And we're going to do that using the free software Blender. Okay, so I'll just open that up. Okay, and so this is the Blender environment. It's really complicated. I don't honestly know how to use it very well. I just know how to use it for what we're going to be doing. So that's that. This is the model environment here, and you can see, oh, and I think that this is, this might be like where lighting might be shown from. You can find out more about Blender online. There's a lot of tutorials for it. But essentially what happens is our environment, we start off automatically with this 3D cube. And you can see that the cube is highlighted because it's outlined by this orange line. We don't want that cube, okay? So when it's highlighted, you're just on your keyboard going to click X, okay? And that's a shortcut for delete. And you're just going to click delete here, and you can see you get rid of the cube. Excellent. So then we're going to import our Spore creature in that DAE file format, okay? So we're going to go File, Import to collada.dae. And so then you're just going to navigate to where you saved your file. I saved it on my desktop. Okay. All right, and so here's my creature that I made in Spore. And so what I'm doing right now is with my mouse, just to kind of see what our creature looks like. Right now, to rotate, I'm clicking down the middle button on my mouse, like the scroll wheel, I'm just clicking that down. To pan, I'm clicking down on my right with my right button, and clicking down on my left doesn't really do anything. I think it changes like a center point. You can see that's moving around. Anyway, though, the important thing to notice is that this doesn't look like what your creature looks like in Spore, right? You might be thinking, oh my gosh, like the legs look all wonky, what happened? And that's because in Spore doesn't create, like, your bug isn't a cohesive 3D model. Like, if you remember, you dragged and dropped like parts onto your Spore creature to make a final insect. And each individual piece that you picked, like for instance, you might have picked these antennae, right? So that is its own object, okay? And the problem is that the separate 3D models that you put together in Spore, when you bring them into other software tools, like for instance, if you want to 3D print it, they're not going to behave nicely together, okay? Where they're located in space might not be properly remembered, which is why you get this weird looking thing, and that's why we need to edit it. Yeah. Another reason why we need to edit it is because if we were to 3D print this thing right now, even if it looked perfect, the individual parts won't actually be connected together. So what that means is if I were to 3D print this and take it off of the platform, it would all just fall apart. Like the legs would fall apart because, as I said again, all those individual parts that you dragged and dropped to create your final insect, they're not actually connected. That's the problem. So again, that's a little explanation of why we're doing this. And so what we need to do now is we can't fix it in Blender. We might be able to, but we're not going to. We're just going to convert the file type to an STL. And so to do that, I'm just going to go File, Export, and I want to export it as an STL file right here, okay? And I'm just going to save it where I saved my original collada or .dae file. So that's in Spore test. And I'm just going to say, I don't know, Blender edited. Don't save it with a better file name, but I'm just going to do that for now. So then I'm going to click Export STL. Okay. And then, you know, you'll see now I have this, this file. The most important step is the second step we're going to do, which is where we're actually going to fix it in a program called Mesh Mixer. And so Mesh Mixer is a free tool that's actually created by a software company called Autodesk. They create a lot of other great products too. And so I'm going to click Import right here, and I'm going to find my, my file that I just created in Blender. And so here is our insect. And you'll learn some of the basics of Mesh Mixer through this tutorial. So right now, this is a little different. Actually, it's honestly opposite of how Blender works. So to pan, I'm actually clicking that middle scroll wheel. And to rotate, I'm clicking the right button of the mouse. So that's opposite of Blender. You know, in Blender, you rotate by clicking the middle scroll wheel, and you pan by clicking the right button. But here it's different. Okay. So you can see a couple other pretty useful tools is if you click T on your keyboard, that's going to help you. It's called transform your creature. We can use that to just move it up and down, and you can see that even though parts of it are disconnected, all of those disconnected parts are moving as one. And so that's something that we need to change right now. Okay, so I believe we're going to go to Edit, and we're going to click on, so we're going to click on Separate Shells. And it's thinking. Okay, and you can see all of a sudden this object browser comes up. You can also get to the object browser, this little window right here, by going to View. And it should be, yeah, it would say Show Object Browser. And actually, I'm going to undo this step because I just want to show you what our object would look like. Right, okay, so before I clicked on Separate Shells, you'll see that our insect, it's just one object. Even though it looks disjoint, it's one object in the eyes of Mesh Mixer. But then if I were to click on Separate Shells, you'll see how our creature is actually not just one piece. So if I were to click on one of the objects here, you'll see that, remember you made your body in Spore? That is its own thing, okay? And so if I were to click on T here, I would be able to move it independently of everything else. And so you can notice that whatever shell we've clicked on, it will be automatically highlighted in our creature, okay? And so something I think that will be important for you guys, and I think if I click on this, yeah, so what's going to be useful is you can actually go back to your original .dae file, and I am actually just rotating this right now by clicking on my left key, and you can see what it used to actually look like, okay, before Mesh Mixer and Blender kind of jiggled it all up. And we're going to use that to recreate our creature the way that we want it to look, okay? And so we're going to have to move each individual little part, okay? It's going to take a while, and unfortunately, each of your guys' insects, it's going to look different, and it's going to they're going to change differently when you bring them into Mesh Mixer. So I'm just showing you how to do it on this insect. It's going to be different on all other insects, but the process is the same. And so we're going to notice a couple things. You can see there's like some like claws kind of that are stuck down here. Another thing too that's useful is if you click on a part in our window, and then you can scroll down and see what shell that is, which is useful. And so you can see, though, there's this claw right here that's somehow become embedded in the leg. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. And that looks like it's actually a whole foot. I'm going to hit click accept to let it kind of just rest where it is right now. I'm going to start just moving pieces. Oh, I can see kind of if you, looks like there's something else that's been lodged into the leg, so I'm going to move that. Click accept. And I remember I'm rotating by just clicking the right button on my mouse. I'm just bringing everything down. So again, we're just trying to, remember I'm hitting T here, T to transform. I'm just trying to get everything in the right kind of order. So I can keep kind of looking back at my original Collada file. Which is helpful. I also didn't design this one. Another student last year did, so I'm not as knowledgeable about how it should look. But if you look here, okay. All right, so to me, it kind of looks like this thing. So this part of the leg is really kind of this part of the leg. And so I'm going to move it back to be in line with this joint or this kind of part. And so to do that, I'm just going to click on one of these arrows. So I'm going to click on this blue arrow to bring it back. And I'm going to click on this arrow, the green arrow, to bring it down. And then a really good technique is to just be constantly rotating around your model to make sure that things are actually aligned, so you can see that this piece actually isn't, this top of the piece actually isn't in the socket. I know it looks confusing. It's a little confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. It's fine. Just takes a little bit of practice. So that actually looks pretty good. I think that's fine. Okay. And then you can see that maybe this foot kind of went more here underneath the piece we just moved. So I'm going to first hit accept to accept the transformations I made on this piece of the foot, on the leg, okay? And then I'm going to align this foot with the leg, okay? So I'm going to click on it. Great, I'm going to click on it. And I can't really move the object browser, so. And then I'm going to hit T to move my foot, okay? And I'm going to try to move it such that it might kind of look like it's in line with the leg. And you can see I go underneath. This is the bottom of the platform in the software tool. So when I go underneath it, it grays out. So I could move my entire model a little higher so I wouldn't run into that problem. Doesn't look quite right. I might bring it down a little more. You know, and again, I'm doing this to show you guys. It's going to be hard to tell if it's perfect. But you do want to make sure that a little bit of each part that you're moving intersects with another part. Because if it wasn't, like if it was just out like this, you can see it's just floating in space right now. And that's not good, because when we eventually put all the pieces together, it will be a separate piece and it won't print well that way. Okay, so that looks fine. I'm going to hit accept. Okay, and this middle leg looks more like the middle leg on my original model. Okay, and so I can do that with the other side as well right now, right? So I click on this, I hit T to transform it, I start moving it, constantly rotating by clicking on the right key of my mouse, panning by clicking on that middle key, the scroll wheel. Okay. And I think that's good. I'm going to hit accept. Trying to make each side as symmetric as possible to the other. If it's not perfect, that's okay. Okay. So then I click on the foot, hit T to transform, clicking on my left button now to move these arrows, constantly rotating around my model, as you can see. All right, that looks good. You can see it's intersecting with the top part of that leg. I'm going to hit accept. Great. And that looks similar as well to my original drawing. So now I'm going to focus on the front two legs, these legs right here. So you can see this part was shifted somehow during our process of building. It looks like there might be another piece that's lodged in there. I'm just going to move it around, and yeah, there is another piece. So you can see right here. I'm going to hit accept. You can see right here there's this little piece that I think was part of a foot. I'm just going to move it out of the way. Hit accept. This was another toe. I'm going to transform it, move it that way. Again, parts of your thing might become dislodged in it. In the full model. Why? I'm not totally sure. Looks like something else is lodged in here too, but it's hard to tell. Yeah. This is crazy, right? I'm not sure what this is. I don't know what that piece is. I'm gonna increase my screen so you guys can see a little more. Okay, so I'm gonna move this back up into the front socket of the leg. Again, constantly rotating around the screen. So you can see when I get it into the socket, it looks like it was somehow kind of rotated. And so I've been moving my piece around by clicking on the arrows, okay? So to rotate it, like if I wanted to rotate it, so this piece wasn't hitting this, it was maybe more a little straighter, I'm going to click on this kind of curve and I'm clicking and holding the click, and I'm just rotating, okay? You can see I'm just kind of rotating. And then I can keep kind of moving it around. So you can see I'm constantly moving around the screen. And if I look here, it looks like somehow these pieces are really close together. You know, maybe I almost should have rotated this one a little more back. So I'm going to rotate this one so it's a little straighter. And, you know, this is a process, right? It's just constantly kind of looking at it, changing it. That's okay. It's not going to be perfect the first time. That's okay. So this is obviously going to be a really long video. I'm gonna film the whole thing just for you guys. You can you know, go through the whole thing. You can look at different parts of the video, and that's fine. So I guess I'll rotate the other kind of leg now on the other side. So I'm going to click on that. Oh, another really important thing too is you just want to save your work. So I'm just going to save it right now. I'm going to save it as I don't know, mixture insect project. You could name it a different name. It's going to save itself as a .mxi, mix, and that's the mesh mixer file type. So you could open this up in the future and keep fiddling with it in Mesh Mixer. So again, I'm just making this one a little straighter. I'm going to move this, I'm going to accept. Clicking on this, remember I hit T, and I just click and hold on the arrows to move the foot around. And remember, as you can see, I'm just constantly rotating around my space just to really see if everything looks okay, because you can't see if everything's okay just from one angle. So that looks okay. I'm gonna hit accept. Is that okay? I think it's okay. Looks like it's intersecting a little bit. Hopefully it's okay. I'm gonna save again. All right, and then let's get back to that front foot. So as you remember, I moved this originally. I'll look at it again. It looks okay. I might bring it a little more. Remember, I'm panning by clicking on the middle wheel. I might just bring it a little more this way. Yeah. And what was this piece? Look here. Okay, so it looks like if I look on my model, it looks like there's a toe, like a claw pointing back and a claw pointing front. Okay, so I'm going to move this guy kind of back in. And it might actually look like, is that, I don't really know what this is. You know, I'm just going to delete this thing because I don't really know what it is. So I'm just going to trash it, and I delete it by just hitting this. Might have been something else inside of here. I don't think I really need it. Yeah, I think it's okay. So then I'm going to move the toe. This is going to be interesting. So I'm going to move this claw to the top of the foot, right? Because it looks like there was a claw coming forward. Oh, that wasn't right. Keep moving it. And this is important, guys, so I actually do recommend you watch this part. So I'm going to make sure that my toe is intersecting my back foot by constantly rotating around. All right, so I'm just constantly rotating, zooming in by just scrolling on that scroll wheel. Does that look good? It's sometimes hard to tell, isn't it? Just bring it in a little more. Okay, we're going to say that's fine. Now, what's going to be useful for us at this point is to actually, we're going to combine the tiny claw and the bigger foot to make them one object, and that'll make it easier to move them together. So what I'm going to do is, you can see this toe is already highlighted because it's in a lighter gray. To highlight both the little claw and the bigger foot, I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm holding Shift still, and I'm also going to click on the foot, okay? And that's going to highlight both of them. When that happens, another window will automatically pop up, okay? And I believe you can either click Combine or Boolean Union. If we do a Boolean Union, that'll actually, nope, that's not going to work. That's a little different. Okay, so I'm going to cancel. I'm going to click Combine. And that should be fine now. Yeah. Oh, you can see it's a little off, but whatever, it's fine. Okay. And so then I'm going to move it so that it's in line with that front leg. And kind of one of the problems is you want to make sure that it's really in there. So actually maybe that little bit should have gone in there that we deleted, but yeah, oh well. Just make sure it's intersecting. And that's not perfect because you can see it's really on the far outside, and maybe we really should have used that little piece. So we can try with the other side and see how that looks. So remember that little piece was lodged kind of in the upper part of the leg. I'm going to click T and click and hold on this arrow to bring it down. I believe the other part of the foot was over here. Bring it, oh, that's another thing. God, there's so many hidden little gems in here. I'm just going to delete it. I'm just going to delete here. I can't remember where I found the other foot. Where did that go? So these also might be other like bits that should have been here. Click that to delete it. I can't find the other foot. Oh well, so you can see there's like just so many weird things lodged in here. And that might be necessary, but it honestly doesn't look like it would interfere with the model at all. These might have just been other bits from spore. So, you know, they probably actually go right in between the joints, so they probably go here to make it look a little better. But it would just be a lot of work to move those around, so we might just ignore them. You don't have to ignore them, though. I just am. This is unfortunate. I can't find the other foot, so that's okay. Maybe when I move that leg. So I still have to move this leg, remember. So I'm going to hit T. Down. Keep moving it, rotating constantly. Oh, and I found it. There it is. Okay, so I found it. After moving that foot, the other part of the leg down, I found it. Okay, accept. And again, you can tell this is why we want you guys to do each of your creatures, because you'll learn a lot about Mesh Mixer in the process, which is pretty cool. And I don't know, did I rotate that a little bit? I think I rotated it, yeah. So I'm going to rotate this a little more forward. Click on the arrows, right? Rotating constantly to see if that looks good. I think it looks good. Right, remember next is I'm going to combine the two pieces of the foot together. So I'm going to move and I can scroll in so you guys see a little better. It actually looks pretty good. All right, so remember, I'm going to hit Shift, click on the other part of the foot. They're both in light gray. I'm going to hit Combine. And now when I move them both, they'll move as one, which is what we want. Okay, hit Accept. I'm going to save my work, Command S or File Save. Either works. Okay, so we hit the front two pairs of legs. Let's hit the back now, okay? So if we look at the back, it looks like these two parts of the leg are connected, and then there's that foot. So, you know, it looks like this foot part is already kind of nicely attached to the leg, but if I click on it, it's actually well positioned according to the leg, but if I click on the leg, you'll see if I try to move it, it's detached from the foot. And so I think something I'm going to do is combine them right now, just like I combined the pieces of the foot here. Okay, so I'm going to hit Shift, and I'm going to click on each part of the foot, rotating around to see if I got everything. Okay, I did, so I'm going to hit Combine. And now if I try to move it, they'll move all together, which is really good. We're constantly rotating around. And now I also think I should probably rotate these down a little bit. You can see this kind of looks like it's a little further down. Actually, honestly, this leg looks like it's a little further down. Take a look at this again. Look at this spore creature. Huh. Well, all right, whatever. We're going to try our best. So I'm going to rotate this down a little bit. It just looks odd. I don't know what happened. It looks like they're not as long as these two legs, even though they look as long as these legs in here. So something like shortened. I'm not sure how, but again, we're trying our best. I'm gonna hit accept. That looks fine to me. I think it's intersecting. So remember, we're gonna do that again with the other foot. We're gonna first combine all three parts, holding down the shift key constantly, making sure all parts are highlighted in gray, hitting combine here, then hitting T on our keyboard and clicking and holding the arrows here to move the piece around. This takes a while, so I've been doing 3D modeling for a while and I'm pretty comfortable with the modeling space, but thinking about things in 3D can be hard if you haven't done it before. It took me a long time, and so don't feel upset if you're confused or lost in the space, because I've been lost many times in the space. It's fine. So this definitely doesn't look exactly like our model, as you can see, if I try to compare these. But we're trying our best, so that's okay. Other things that look like they're not connected technically are the eyes and these little antenna. Now I'm going to focus on the antenna first because the antenna are a little tricky. So when I separated my shells, it unfortunately separated all the little bits of the antenna. And so like you'll see if I click on a fur, each one will be individual, and so if I were to try to move it, it would move individually, which I don't want. So I'm going to try to make sure that when I rotate my perspective, so how I'm looking at my insect right now, that I'm looking at it such that the hairs aren't kind of over another part of the body, but I'm gonna click on my right key on my mouse and make sure that it's just on the background. So then I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to literally just click on each individual little hair, right? And the bigger stem. If you double click on one, it'll just gray. It'll go to like a kind of darker gray again. So it's helpful to really zoom in so you make sure that you're really clicking on each thing. Now, if this antenna is just too much work for you, I understand. You don't have to include the antenna, but I'm showing you how to if you want to. Zooming out. Okay, so we got we got everything on antenna. I'm going to hit combine. And now you can see if I try to move it, it all moves together, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to do that with the other antenna. Remember, I'm holding down the shift key here. If I didn't hold down the shift key, different parts of the antenna wouldn't all kind of change from dark to light gray, which is what we want. Great, okay, I'm going to hit combine. Okay, so now I want actually both of my antennae to move together. So I can hold shift again, I can click on both of them. Can I click on both of them? No. That's fine. Okay, well I'm gonna move, yeah, there we go. I'm gonna move them down. So they do move together, which is kind of nice. Move them down. I'm gonna move them down so they're intersecting the head. Just gonna keep constantly rotating to make sure that happens. So it doesn't look like they're intersecting yet. So I'm going to move it back a little, keep moving it down. Maybe rotate it. Back up. Again, it's just kind of playing around with it. push it down a little more. I actually might want to bring these a little further back on the head. Oh, that's what I wanted. Bring them a little further back. I like that better. Yeah, so now they're kind of more on the back part of the head, and they won't intersect with the eyes. So then we've got these other 3 little eyes here. Oh, I'm going to save my work. Command S on a Mac, Control S on a PC. So I'm going to move these eyes together. So I'm going to hold Shift, combine all 3, hit T, and then move them onto the face. Probably have to angle them a little more, smush them in. Okay, that looks fine to me. Control S. And I think, okay, so I think we've properly positioned everything now, which is good, at least to the best of our ability. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to click on the top shell in the object browser. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and I'm going to click the bottom one. Okay, so all the pieces are highlighted. I'm going to click Combine again. It's going to take a little while. Okay, so when it's thinking, don't click on anything. Just let it think. So the next step is to make sure that everything's a solid body. There are different ways of doing this in Mesh Mixer. Just in case though, we're going to click on something called Make Solid. Okay. And yeah, sometimes you lose things. So, you know what, I think we're going to be able to do it this way, and I think it should be fine. I think it should be fine this way. So you might want to stop the video here. But I will say, actually, so we might be able to do it this way. I will say, though, unfortunately, like sometimes parts of your model might still print separately. I think it'll be okay since everything is combined, and pushed into each other. But I will say, like right now, like these little antennae probably won't print out super well. So one option you can do, I don't think we have to do it, but we can make this into a solid. That's what I did last year. And you can see a couple of things. It doesn't look great anymore. You lose a lot of detail, and you also get these kind of weird holes. So we're going to have to do some fancy things with it, okay? So when I click on Make Solid, this toolbar comes up, okay? And the solid type, we're going to do Accurate, because that's what we care about. We're going to change the min thickness because we don't want holes. We might change the offset distance just a tiny bit. And then we're going to click on Update and see what happens. I don't know what splatting means, but oh, it looks really bad. All right, so I think what happened was this offset distance like made it look like a blimp. So I'm just gonna like set that to 0. I'm gonna update again. And updating just helps you kind of see what your creature will look like. It still doesn't look great, probably because of this min thickness. So we're gonna bring this down even a little more. You can also just not use that scroll thing and just kind of click in here. And then we're going to say Update. And this takes a lot of computational power from your computer. Okay, so that's definitely looking a little better. And you'll see that these antennae like won't come out because there's this one will fall off because it's not connected. So we might be even able to change them in thickness a little more to 2. Let's try that. And again, each of your creatures will be different, so each of you will have to kind of fiddle around with the settings here. Okay. And I think actually that looks pretty good to me. The antenna still might break because even though this antenna is connected now, it might still be very small and fragile. Again, you can see we lose resolution, but it will print out as a full piece, which is nice. So yeah, and then you'll hit accept. Fortunately, we did get some holes in the wings here because of that min thickness, which isn't great, but it's okay. And you'll notice something too, when I hit accept, I get this solid thing, okay, which is kind of nice. And so what I would do is I would make sure, so we've got actually two pieces here. This is pretty cool. So you can actually see the original kind of multi-part model we had, and then we can also see our solid part. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I click on the solid in my object browser, and then I'm going to hit export. And I'm going to save it as, I believe in ASCII format's fine. And I can say maybe like final insect or something. You can name it whatever. And then that should be what you can use and send that to your 3D printer to print. So that's a demo of how you can clean your insects in Spore and alter them in Spore. And I hope that or alter them from Spore and how to clean them in Mesh Mixer. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. And you can revisit this video as many times as you want. I'll also include links to other Mesh Mixer tutorials so you can play around with those and get more comfortable with Mesh Mixer. I'll include those below this YouTube video. All right, take care. Bye.